Good morning, and I don't know which day for you is it here in Denver, but for me it's the 5th, so I'm pretty tired. And because last year I actually came here, I think, a day before in Denver, but I actually realized that a lot of people actually meeting during the middle week. And so I was like, yeah, maybe we need to do this, but I'm just still tweaking my energy here because it's the biggest event in here, you know. And I'm here to talk to you about a narrative that nobody talks about, but it's actually, you know, pretty like it's taking traction. It's getting traction.
Alpha?
Huh?
Is it alpha?
Could be. Could be for 2025, I think.
Okay.
So I'm Jaack, Jaack, but everyone calls me Jaack, and I'm head of growth at Routescan. That it's a unified multi-chain block explorer platform. What it means is that basically we build explorers, but when you see your explorer, you can actually go like cd ... and you can actually see the folder above that. So right now we're seeing the root folder that is the global unified explorer. So here you see every blockchain that we index. Right now we index 35 blockchains on mainnet, 36 from today because we now support class, and about 45 on testnet. So what it means? It means that we are on, like, we envision a future in which you don't need to switch between one chain and the other, but simply you need to like use a dApp and don't even know what chain you're using. That's the main idea. And it's getting traction. We have already 10 clients. Glass is one of them, also beta chain, Tyco. And Routescan started as AvaScan in 2020. We got a grant from the Avalanche Foundation, and we just built for 3 years straight a natively multi-chain block explorer, because Avalanche is a multi-chain platform, and so basically it means that you can put a lot of blockchains on it. And so we were intimate friends with Amin Gunsir and Kevin Siknig. They are the founders of Ava Labs, and they were saying to us, yeah, we'll have like 1,000 blockchains with 1,000 CPS. So like, okay, how can we index everything? And we were like running some numbers, and it would actually cost us about $300,000 per month just to index that. So like, okay, yeah, maybe we need to find some economies of scale. And so we took from 2020 to 2023 to actually iterate on the indexing engine. And on 2023 we launched Routescan, that is a more flexible block explorer, because AvaScan is heavily focused just on Avalanche. So Routescan is only VM, but AvaScan is also all the VMs that are on Avalanche. Yes. The thing is, there are a lot of block explorers. There's BlockScout, OKLink, Lore, Dora, Etherscan, DBank even is an explorer. It's just a different type. So, did you know anything of this? Anyone of this?
BlockScout.
Just BlockScout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scale, of course.
And of course Etherscan. Yes. So the basic idea is that there's a new narrative that is taking place, and it's that block explorers are the front page of the blockchain, just like Google was the front page of the internet. And so in 5-10 years, everyone will have eyes on block explorers or explorers in general. We're going to talk about that further later. And so, like, Etherscan right now has about 30 million users. All the block explorers on Etherscan about 30-40 million users with billions of impressions. You say that is Google level attention. And what can you do with that? You can monetize with it. How? Google has the basic Web2 model of selling advertisement. But what if we can do something else? And that's I'm trying to think in the open about this here. So the basic idea is that there are different teams that are achieving and trying to experiment with block explorer business in different ways. BlockScout is an open source project. They sell explorers as a service, and maybe sometimes they take some money from the RPGF community grant. And sometimes they simply give the open source tool to other teams to deploy on. DBank is different. DBank is an explorer in the sense that is explorer focused on the financials. So you see, they simply index all the chains for free, and every new chain they index is just going to add more traction and more attention to the website. Then there's OKLink. OKLink is from OKX, and I sincerely don't understand why they're doing this, because they have a wallet and an exchange, but maybe because they want to, be the Samsung of crypto, I don't know. And then there's Root.fi. Root.fi is another one that is mostly focused on like natural language processing of the transactions. Like if you make a post on Forecaster, you have that associating your transaction details to your account, and that is of course like, it's like Jaack minted this NFT at this time and also commented this on this post, and like a visual history of what's happened to your account. And Dora is selling their Explorer as a service, but they also market themselves as a cross-chain search engine. And it's also like very different from Recipient and from Routescan. Lore, it's more like analyst-driven. They've sold a few Explorers, but they also have their own product. Recipient, we all know them. They charge $1-2 million per year for Explorers. And Minscan has a very hard business model in which they simply get delegations from every chain on Cosmos, and they simply make money off of that. For my simple calculation, in 2022, they made about $3 million just from delegations. And the thing is, they can do this because on Cosmos, you can simply stake 1 cent and have $3 million of delegations, because there are no limits on delegations. So that's how they make money. We cannot do this on Avalanche because there's a limit on how you can get delegations, and also the chains have, each proof of stake chain has its own limits and constraints. So yeah, the basic idea is that Explorers are the front page of the blockchain, and everyone wants to get a piece of that. So the Explorers can be product-driven or business-driven. As I told you, I told you about little descriptions about what the Explorers are. But the product-driven Explorers are OKLink, DBank, and Root.it, because they don't charge chains. They raise 10, 15 millions, or maybe have more money. Like DBank, I think, raised $60 million or 17 rounds. Simply, they add new chains, and they have maybe they're very specific, like very niche, like Root.it or DBank don't have developer tools. You can't verify contracts on DBank or on Root.it. But you can do it on OKLink, just because they want to maybe have traction and get everyone on board. And then there are business strategies. Business strategies are, as I told you, Block Scout, Dora, Lore, Winscan, and Etherscan. But the thing is, now that Routescan is in the middle, because we built AvaScan first as a product because we just were given a grant, and then we built Routescan as a Explorer as a service, with some exception, like the Superscan is our product, and we simply get awarded RPGF money from it. We simply, the thing is that the Explorer as a service is a boring business. Why you need Web3 and every thing is so very futuristic, and the Explorer business is selling contracts to chains that pay you. That is a very boring business. It is profitable. In 8 months of activity with Routescan, we've been making millions, literally, but it is not scalable. It is not scalable because it counts on the number of chains and the capability of each chain to actually pay you. And also with new advancements of technology like EAP 4844 and RAS providers and everything, the cost to actually deploy and maintain a chain is like $5,000 per month. So we sell the Explorer at around $200,000 per year standard, that it's 80% less than what Etherscan charges. The thing is, it's just too much for most of the chains. And so, what's the insight? The insight is that we need to build, we chose to build Routescan as a money-making business, and we're not VC funded. Because then we could then pour a little bit of those money on Everscan, that is a different product. Most companies that do block explorers have one product. And so they can only test one strategy. Like Etherscan only tests the Explorer as a Service strategy. And yes, they have Etherscan, that's a product, but it's basically the same product that they're also selling as a service. So the basic idea is, now the block explorer space is heavily influenced by boring deals. And this does not scale. So how can we do that? So on Everscan we have some features that basically can let you see all the staking information about a validator and so on. So maybe it could be like adding a button and you can stake from your Explorer, or like building the block explorer as a platform instead of a service. It's something that it's much more in the future, like in the next 3-5 years instead of the next 2, because a lot of chains simply just want Etherscan. But the thing is, when we get to mainstream, Etherscan is not going to be viable, and we're already seeing it because a lot of people are using DBank and not Etherscan. Like when you see people sharing their network, they're not using Etherscan, they're using DBank, or they're using Zapper, or they're using other services. That's because Etherscan is not suitable for any purpose. Etherscan is a really good developer product. But what? Sometimes I hear people say, but the block explorer should be more human readable. But that's not the case. Block explorer does not need to be human readable, it needs to be developer readable. Some other types of block explorers need to be human readable, but they already have. But the thing is, we still don't know which one is going to win. Is it going to be DBank? I don't know, because DBank only supports EVM. Is it going to be OKLink? Well, they may be pouring millions of dollars in the Explorer business, but they also are pouring millions of dollars in the wallet and exchange. So who knows? And so the thing is, we don't know it. So the call to action here is, if you have some ideas, we're constantly seeking some help in how to understand how to build a community-driven product based on not on what the intuition is, but what real usage is. Like if you share a transaction about something that, like, how many times did you share or see a transaction that you've done on a chain that only has games on it? Like how many times did you go and on a game and purchased an NFT, or maybe made some actions and then looked at that transaction on chain? I never did. Basically because the transaction is seamless and you don't need to look at it because it's just abstracted away at the application level. So that's the basic idea. We're looking at the wrong problem. And sometimes DBank is solving some of this because CFOs all over the world and then on-chain sleuths and trading maniacs are using DBank to understand the plus and minus, the P&L. But block explorers are just used by developers. And so that's what we need to understand. So if you have some ideas, please help us and suggest new features to understand what's the future of Block Explorer. And we're gonna do some things anyway in 2024 with Everscan, and we'll also just push for chains to have access to high quality democratized block explorers like us, because Etherscan is too expensive and it's too complacent. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
I'm interested in hearing your data stack. What do you guys ingest?
I cannot say much
Okay.
because it's one of the reasons we are 80% cheaper.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we have different ways. Like I can say to you that when you see a transaction, like when you see the website, and you see like all the transactions unified. So maybe you go on your address details and you see everything like on DBET, like all unified in blockchain and every blockchain. We are not aggregating those transactions just in time for you. No, we have actually those at the back end, so it's just being served on the client side. And when you see a single chain explorer, because you can if you want, and usually right now some chains have single chain explorers, like Blast is a single chain, but for example Snowtrace that we maintain is natively a multi-chain. So you need to specifically go and look at the C chain, for example. Or Boba has 2 rollups and it's natively multi-chain. You specifically need to see each rollup segmented. But when you look at the blockchain level or in a single chain, we are not filtering that for you. It's already filtered at the backend as well. So we found this way and actually have talked about some benchmarks with other chain providers, and have actually done some benchmarks with BlockScout. And for low chains, like low TPS, we cost around the same, like some like 10% less. But for high throughput, we are even like 80% cheaper. And yes, that is because we have a cloud technology that it's been, it has been proprietary developed. Uses of course AWS and outsourced, but it's a new kind of orchestrator that does this. And basically it's what is big. And also we introduce new workflows, deployment workflows, so that a new chain is just line of code. And if you want customizations, you can do those, but the single chain explorer is deployed in 10 minutes at most. If it's a new chain, and of course with the time it takes to recover all the chain, plus 10 minutes.
Yeah, you don't have to go into details, but is it like a document database or like a relational database, or is that too much?
A bit of both, yeah.
But
Yes, it depends. Depends on the type of content that we have.
yeah, because like Solana, right? Like if you have that as part of your.
No, we don't have it,
Okay.
and but Solana would actually be easier for us to index, because we have our own indexing engine, because most EVM chains, most nodes of EVM chains don't include an indexer on themselves, let's say. Like some chains like Shardium, that it's a new L1 that it's coming out soon, do host a very light indexer on the node. So when you get the data, you already get some parse data. But Solana hosts a complete indexer. So if you go on, for example, Superscan or other chains or other explorers that are on Solana, you will see that if you simply inspect the code, they're just proxying the indexing URL, the node URL onto their URL, but they're actually not indexing themselves. So that's why Superscan is so cheap, let's say, even if they have like 500 TPS. Also, those 500 TPS are not really TPS.
Dead folks.
No, it's not. It's not just about that. It's about internal operations. They don't count internal operations. So, in fact, I wanted to introduce a new metric on EVM chains that is like operations per second, because transactions per second could be like 1, but you have for 1 transaction per second you can have 500 operations per second. And there's not this distinction on Solana because they're treated the same way, but it's computation. So it's yeah. And also, I don't know if any of you saw Superscan raise some Solana FM raised some money last year to go beyond and make explorers for other chains. They raised, I don't know, $5-10 million, and we were actually afraid of that. They're gonna steal us the business. They didn't do anything, and I'm guessing it because they don't have the indexer. And building a new indexer from scratch that is also cost efficient requires years. Hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
Okay, almost gonna scrap some secret out of the business. So, any more comments or questions?
I was thinking through what you said about how explorers don't need to be kind of like human readable, maybe more developer readable. And I'm trying to think why I agree and why I disagree. In a way, I disagree because I do use explorers sometimes. That I wish they were more human readable. Okay. I mean, but you know, for example, when I want to mint, for example, interact directly with the contract, you go to Superscan, do that, you know, select your token ID, for example, and you're interacting directly with that, and it's not very human readable. It's kind of hostile. Developers know to do that, for example. Yes. But then immediately you think, well, what am I really doing here? I'm really doing something completely like generate edge case. You know, interacting with.
Do you need to see the token ID? I mean, think, whoa. No.
Yeah, interact with a product that's just doing artificial scarcity anyway, and it's like kind of these things should be solved in other places. So in a way, I do agree, even though I do think there are some, leading edge consumers, if you will, that would benefit from that. But then I wonder, what would an explorer that is beneficial to more retail consumers look like? What features? I almost wonder if there's things, interacting with contracts, where you attach like open social graphs, like the Farcaster open graph. And now, so when you're going to interact with anything, you can actually look at who your network, who amongst your network has interacted. And that's something that could have a lot of value, for example.
There's something that I've been telling before. So the thing is, a lot of people complain about availability because it's chains choose explorers, not users. Chains choose explorers, but they choose it because they've been heavily suggested by developers. I've been talking to Boba CEO Alan Q a few months ago, and he said to me, "You're doing." It was the first client, our first client, and he said to us, "You're doing right for like copying Routescan, let's say, like making a very similar feature set of Routescan and also similar UI, but making the price like 80% cheaper, because we don't want Routescan. Like Alan, I don't want Routescan. Like I talked to the CEO of Optimism last year. I said, I don't want Routescan. The thing is, I don't care. My decision doesn't come anything. It's not relevant. What's relevant is the developers, and developers are the chain's consumers, and so it's them they actually need to choose which explorers. So that's the basic idea. And the thing is, from an end user, I'm expecting to have a Google. I'm not expecting to have a block explorer. Just like look for, I don't know, what transaction did I make, whatever day, what was it, on one of my 10 addresses that I logged. The thing is, we're very far from that, because some of these explorers that I showed you, like Dora, IT, they're struggling as a business because nobody wants them. Everyone wants, like chains want what developer want. They don't care about the chains don't care about the users. They really don't care, because the money is from developers, not users. And so like Dora and like Lore and whatever was it, Who's.IT, they are struggling as a business, so maybe they're building some product and they don't know, because maybe they also need the money to justify to investors that actually making some revenue. So it's a really, really weird case. And I wanted to just make a lot of talks about this, because nobody knows anything about block explorers, and they need to, because it's something that should change. Like developer block explorers are a thing, but that's a thing. That's you should have multiple. You should have a financial block explorer. You should have a NFT block explorer. You should have separate block explorer for any kind of user, an academical block explorer.
Do you think that'll naturally happen with like bespoke L2s, for example, like where you have kind of like specialist L2s?
They want specialized L2s don't even want Routescan. Like an app
You don't
chain.
think it'll translate?
No, because an app chain just has maybe one application. Maybe they have like their whole set of applications, so they don't need to actually be convinced by developers. They are the developers, so they interact directly with users. So what they want is something that can be appealing to final users. And I think we're gonna discuss more and more about this as chains abstract even more the computation layer and abstract even more like the code. And that doesn't make sense anymore. You know, like when I need to read or write a contract for Block Explorer as a user, that means that the industry has failed in the mainstream goal, you know? So I don't need to do it. I only want to go to a Block Explorer for seeing charts. Yes, I want to see charts, and we have, on Superscan, we have the transaction and blocks list, and we added a feature that it's completely irrelevant to developers, but it's really viral for users, and it's 60 frames per second refresh rate for transactions. So when you have like 1 TPS, it's gonna like do like refresh like this. When it's like 30 TPS, you can't even see the transactions. And that's what it's exciting for the users, not for developers. Developers don't care about this. But users, yes, they want to see the TPS growing, you know, and the hype generating. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the answer, and we're a little bit delayed. We'd
Okay.
love to discuss more, but yeah, that's it for this demo. Thank you, Jaack.
Thank you.
guys.